As you can see, the motor's all out now, so we've got a nice clean slate to start doing a bit of fabrication work. So what we're going to be doing is remounting this motor for two reasons. First one is simply ground clearance. So currently this is sitting about 80mm off the ground, and at that height, 80mm off the ground, I'm still needing to chase another 30mm of lowness. So therefore that'll set this crossbeam at 50mm off the ground, and you won't pass suit with setting your droop and sag. So in saying that, we're going to completely remove all of this, and with that extra 30mm lower, basically this motor is going to be another 100mm higher off the ground. So it's a win-win really, going lower, and replacing this is going to make everything better, as well as suspension geometry will be a lot more better. We can correct that as well, because right now these arms here are sitting up like that. They're just silly. So once we set all that up, then we can sort our tie rod end links out later on down the track. But for the now, we're going to be focusing on remounting this motor, and how we're going to achieve that is by making a plate that bolts to the bottom of the block. So if you look at it from this angle, this might make a bit more sense. And we'll have some little ears coming off here, and they'll bolt to some brackets we'll make for this side of the chassis rail. The reason I want to go for that style there is because this side mount alternator is going to completely hide this one here. As it'll sit there, it'll completely hide this engine mount. And as for this side here, the front extractor should cover half to at least a quarter of it. So when you quickly look at this car down like that, it'll give the illusion like the motor's just floating there and there's actually nothing holding it on. Another bonus of doing this whole new system instead of trying to work around this banana cross member is we can do a custom sump, have ample room for a sump, and we can now push the motor right back hard up against the firewall. We've got a lot more room because they sit out about here roughly, and a lot of the bell housing hangs out and looks pretty ugly. So that's the bonus of being able to go all out on this car. We're going to be chopping this tunnel out, so it doesn't matter how far we push that motor back in now. We ain't going to have any issues of hitting the master cylinder because we're going to be doing the wheel reverse pedals in there. And so there'll be no clearance issues there, no clearance issues on the tunnel because we're going to be making it. As I said, we're going to a hydraulic release bearing, so there'll be no slave cylinder to hit up in the tunnel. So yeah, everything's going to work out really well. I'll quickly go and show you how I'm going to make this plate. Here goes the little 13B out of the car. So as we mentioned before, basically say argument's sake, this baffle here was the engine mount plate we're going to be making. So it'll sit on the motor like that. It'll have some ears off here. Those ears will connect to the brackets that are going to come off the chassis rail. That's basically it. So this motor had a few little gremlins, stuff like that, you know, instead of notching that out, they just cut that. Mismatch housings. Check the oil pickup out. So they just bash that to make it suit along with the sump. You can imagine what the sump looked like if the pickup was like that. Got some interesting balancing on the back. And the classic chisel off nut. These are cheap enough to buy new, so you don't really need to put an old one back on. Apart from that though, the motor went really well, but the condition of the whole overall car was just a slap together rough as gut, so I wasn't expecting anything more with the motor. As for the gearbox, similar situation. So apparently this gearbox had been rebuilt and never been driven on, but I'll tell you right now, it's never been opened up. So we pulled the inspection cover off the bottom and you can tell it had never ever been opened. But the main thing is, all the gears are good, there's no chips in any of the teeth or anything, so I'll rebuild it as far as I can go with parts that are available. So the plans will be like new bearings, a couple of gaskets, get some new synchro rings if we can, because the selectors and everything look nice and straight, everything shifts fine on this end. Got a lot of play on the input shaft though. And the other plan I'm thinking for this gearbox is a lot of people polish the bell housing, but to me, a bell housing is not a pretty thing, so you don't want to itemize it, you sort of want to distract it. So we'll probably paint the bell housing black. And from this on back will be all vapor blast and looking nice from the underside of the car, but so I don't really want to itemize such an ugly part of the car, so let's just hide it by painting it black. Then here we have the wiring. So this little setup here controls all the mechanical side of the car. So we have our coils, fuel pump, fan, and then we have water pump and the ECU, and then everything else is run off the computer. So we've got our one plug down here is for our coils, and the other plug is for the outputs and inputs for our ECU, the water temp and oil pressure and stuff like that. So here goes the bracket to hold it all. The reason why I went for this style of relay is because they had the inbuilt fuses. That way there we have less joins and we don't have to complicate the whole system. Keep everything nice and compact by having another external fuse box. And then here's the underside. So that's nice and tidy, all sorted. The only thing I've got to do is get the boots for these terminals. I'll be doing that once I do the full rewire on the car, because no doubt we'll be needing more boots and bits and pieces, so yeah, that'll come last. Nonetheless, it's all tidy. There's a water pump controller. They say this controls the whole car. We made this little coil bracket you might have seen on Instagram, Facebook. Real simple little setup. And we use dome nuts on the end instead of open nuts just because it looks nice and tidy. It completes the little look of it. Machined out some little spaces to evenly space everything out. Yet again, all plugged, good to go. We've also used the correct size terminals. So a lot of people, so that one there, they'll use that one there across the board, but that size terminal won't hold two wires that size. So you got to use the correct terminals for all your bits and pieces. Also use dome nuts on here as well. Keep everything symmetrical and looking really nice. And they'll be mounted this way on the car underneath the dash. And likewise for this, will be mounted like that under the dash. Hence why I put you can see sorry you can't see, I can't point at the same time, but we put the port there for the microtech and also the indicator lights. That's why we face the ECU that way, so you can see like fuses if you pop them for some unknown reason, or if you have problems with the microtech we need to access it. Yeah, a little bit of thought put out into it, but overall, real simple little setup. Here's everything out of the engine bay now, so not a lot's going back in, apart from another accelerator cable obviously, one fuel line, and the line to do the bonnet latch. But I'm going to do a whole new style of accelerator cable. Not a lot of people think about it, they all just utilize what's there, so I'm going to route it a lot different too, because it won't need to come out through there. We'll be going straight out here to a nice little 90-degree bend, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. It'll be simply like a motorcycle one, because as you can see there, the diameter of the wire that runs in these are the exact same size as the car one, so there's no need to have that big fat sheathing. And yeah, we'll just do a nice one like that, so it'll be straight out of the firewall into a nice 90-degree bend like that, and then straight to the carby. So it's easy enough to make them, so I'll make my own one of them, and it should look really tidy. So imagine that coming up there somewhere, and that little steel 90 into the carby. That's it, one fuel line, and that's the engine bay. So it'll be a real clean engine bay. I've never seen one done to this extent. I say the quality won't be as good as many other cars, but the vision will be pretty cool. I've never seen one this empty, so it should look pretty cool once it's all done. Quickly try and explain the clearance issue since it's back down on the ground. Currently we're sitting 80mm off the ground here. That's before all the motor stuff in, it's roughly around 80mm off the ground. We need to achieve another 30mm, so in effect this crossmember here will be 50mm. Problem is that the sump is actually in line with this crossmember, so the sump will be also 50mm off the ground, which is obviously too low. Sad reality is that's the lowest part of this whole car, so it's a real limiting factor of getting one of these slammed. So the way we're going to be completely getting rid of this crossmember, dropping this car an extra 30mm, the motor will still be well over 100mm off the ground, the sump. So it's actually a win-win really, and we haven't really raised the motor too much compared to how it is. We basically just got rid of this big banana crossmember. So that's going to be really good. As you can see, you probably can't tell, but those arms here are on a real bad angle. So once we can make our new brackets, we'll be able to sort all that geometry out, and at our new ride height they should be parallel how they should be. The only next thing we'll be running into is we'll have to see what the tie rod ends are doing. Might have to get new length tie rod ends, not too sure what's going to happen there. We can sort that out, that's going to be the least of the worries. And also sort out the caster on it, camber, all that type of stuff to get this thing running really nice. So that's basically it all in a nutshell.